We are live, so people can start showing up.
People get to say hi to you.
Yes, and you can come say hi to me. One person is on.
Jean.
I bet you it is
It's
Jean.
or it's Fred.
Whenever you get on, make sure you say hello. Oh, it's Coach's Pit Barbecue.
All right.
And there's Fred.
Fred. I saw a question from Fred, but we'll have to find it. Ask Fred to type his question, because I saw it, but I haven't answered it. Hey, Fred, send your question real quick that you had earlier.
Coach's Pit Barbecue, thank you again they received their care package today. I don't even know that. Oh, Darkwater Megs is on, but Coach's Pit Barbecue posted a picture of their goodies from JJ the CPA on their Instagram today. Jason's here, Fred's here. Oh, Fred said it was a comment. Christine from Maine is here. Yes, thank you, coaches. Thank you so much for all your support. There's Jean. Hello, Jean McIntyre.
Jean, we thought you were the first one, but
Coaches beat you.
Yeah, we love it.
Anna from Charleston, South Carolina. So glad that you were here. I hope that you guys all had a good weekend. As you could tell, JJ did not take the whole weekend off. He shot lots of videos. He did kind of take yesterday off a little bit during the day. Alrighty, 4 thumbs up. Thank you guys so much. Hi, Tammy. Oh, I'm so glad that all of the information is helping you guys. Hey, Heather and AutoStock TV, Fort Worth, Texas. We're just right above you in Oklahoma. The weather is beautiful here, like beautiful. Heidi ho, neighbor. There's Michael Abrams. Are you ready?
How's this shirt? Is it?
What kind of cigars do you like, JJ?
Arturo Fuente, Cohiba,
Monte Cristo.
Monte Cristo.
White Series.
Yep,
That's
H.
my
Upman.
favorite. That's
just
my
kind of
favorite.
your classic name brand, not too fancy. Is this shirt pixelated?
No, it's not.
Okay, good.
Somebody called you their hero. I didn't catch it. I didn't catch the first name though. Why did you do that? You want the lights on in the front?
Yeah,
You do?
maybe. How is everybody today? I've just been over there. I'm going to be doing a radio interview at 5:30, and so we will wrap up by then, and then we'll spend a little extra time tomorrow if need be. We've been getting a lot of emails. Kind of the big news right now is they are, I'm sure they didn't necessarily hear it from me, but there is a common theme going on of the smaller businesses were really left out in the cold. Washington Post has an article that Clay sent me. I don't know if Clay's on from Boston, but you have companies that were, they're valued at $89 million and they're getting $10 million in, PPP money. I was really surprised at the $10 million kind of cap on it. Seems like, maybe $2 million would be enough. One of the big differences when we're dealing with the bigger clients, which I really don't have big clients. I mean, I think the biggest client I have in terms of number of employees might be 100 employees. And then the next level, probably 50. And that's just one. And then after that, most of my clients are under 20, if not under 10. But the bottom line is that, having a $2 million cap per, I think would have gone a long way to help that money last. But then, as I had indicated, if you've seen some of the videos, what I would love to see is that a special amount allocated to, here's, I don't know, 10 billion, 40 billion, right? That it's a bunch of, 50,000 or less, because most of my clients, it was under 50 grand. I mean, maybe someone had something that was around more than that, but most of my clients were 50 or less. Especially given that, it's a cap 100 grand. How does the coloring look? Am I whited out? Should we put a little shade over me or no? No one cares. It's just CPA on here, right? So we've got, I don't know, is Robert of Philadelphia on by any chance? Wendy Thayer on by any chance? Russell Jenkins, big fan, got your book, thank you. Quick question, do you have a post on journalizing the PPP loan? Yes, thank you for reminding me. I knew that there was a video I was supposed to do this weekend. I will tell you, QuickBooks for PPP. So there's one of two ways to roll it. It just depends on how you want to, reflect your books year after year. So I've got the clients that are really paying attention to their financials in the sense of, should I allow a client that next year when we're doing the comparison of payroll, right, we're going to be like, well, why was payroll down? Oh yeah, PPP. So the clients that are paying attention, basically I'm just going to still book all the expenses like I normally do on the P&L. The banks are going to want to still see all those expenses. If you're looking at it from a management purpose, you're going to want to see all those expenses. And then on those clients on the tax return, and I'll get to the QuickBooks part here in a second, but on those clients on the tax return, in the other deductions, I'm just going to list all the expenses, and then in other deductions as a negative, as a reduction down of expenses, it'll just say, paycheck protection program to the amount that was forgivable, and that then reduces down the expense. So it's not taxable, but it doesn't lead to you being able to deduct the expenses that the PPP accounts for. So while it's technically not taxable, it is a situation where the reduction in the amount of expense kind of leads to the same thing, so to speak. But the ones that aren't really using their financials in the sense of really a comparison, they're more just keeping it for tax purposes, we're going to book it as a liability either way. So money comes in, set up a new liability called Paychecks Protection Program or PPP, and then it's going to sit in there for every client, no matter how I reflect it or don't reflect it on the P&L. Everybody, I will set up a liability. And then the ones that I'm just going to run all their expenses on the P&L, then I will be doing a journal entry at year end, down all the way below and in QuickBooks, down in, I don't even know if I'm going to put it in the other income. I'm going to put it in the other expense, and I'll put PPP. Now, if you're keeping books separate from the tax return, meaning you use your M1, that'd be another spot to have an M1 that the books didn't have this adjustment, but the tax return did. But at the end of the day, the ones that it really doesn't matter about their P&L in the sense of comparison, right? If it's just a one owner, they're not really looking to go, well, what was the payroll last year? What's this year? Then as they're spending those dollars, it'll just offset against the liability. So the liabilities start here on the deposit, and then as the expenses come in, there'll be a reduction down of that liability. So that's that. I'm going to walk that through it and pull up QuickBooks, and I've been meaning to do it, and I was actually going through a list of what videos to do. So I'm glad that you have that. Someone said, "Can you answer my question above?" I'm not able to see it. I'm on the phone. We have a number of emails that have come through, and then if you have emailed me, you'll know this. But just so you know, I won't be answering. Yes, Gary, absolutely. I won't be answering any questions related to PPP forgiveness, and here's why. It's really to then push you to ask those questions only of the bank. Now, I did have a question from our great friend Tony, which will have something really neat to announce most likely tomorrow. Something pretty big time, thanks to the idea of one of our new friends that came up with something, and very generous of what he's going to be putting together that's going to help businesses across the nation. It'll feed into, quote unquote, this what I'm calling the reality show. But As it relates to the PPP forgiveness, I have put out together some general videos. I put out a couple of videos kind of even for advisors, kind of more even encouraging them. Send the questions to the bank. A couple of reasons why. The bank's the only one that really matters what the opinion is, because they're the ones that will be making the determination on whether or not something's forgivable. They're going to make a determination if they want that schedule or that type of receipt or how they want it to put together. The banks seem to be rolling out their own worksheets, which you absolutely need to go by that one. I've got one up on my website, jjcpahelp.com, but that was more for advisors because I just kind of took the law. And then we've had some awesome individuals that have sent us kind of what they've gotten. So we've gotten something, I think, I know that Mike and then also Brad, and I think one other CPA sent me like either what they've put together. Brad accepted the 4 a.m. challenge, which I still haven't had time to look at. Mike sent me a copy of something they put together, and then somebody else sent me, I think, a copy of what came to the bank. So as it relates to PPP forgiveness, I'm just going to let my video stand. Here's what it is that I'm willing to share. What's on my website, here's what I'm willing to give you. I did add today a document list, and more, it was a list of all the dates that we have to pull together information for the banks as it relates to payroll. Because there's a bunch of little caveat of time, and it's not just the total, it's bringing the documentation, the payroll records, the amount of pay per employee. So you can go and look at that list, jjcpahelp.com. There's no email to put in to then get this list that then leads to a secret seminar later. It's just there for you to have, but it's on the PPP or the forgiveness page. But real quick, I mean, check this out. This is why I don't even know that you could really predict the amount of time. Can you unplug this right here and just move it right here and we'll situate it. You have to have your payroll by payroll period with head count. So head count and the amount of payroll for each payroll period from February 15th, 19 to June 30, 19. You need to have it from January 1st, 2020 to February 29th, 2020. You need to have it on February 15th, like what was everybody paid right at that point. You need to have that information from February 15th to April 27th, okay? February 15th to April 27th, because it's that period of time, 30 days, thank you. 30 days past when the act went into play, and you need to have that information for the 56 days of PPP, and you need to be able to substantiate what you're doing on June 30. I think the SBA is going to come out with some additional information, surely they will, to substantiate if you have kept or reduced or increased your head count and your salary there at June 30. I've talked about 1106 D5. And if you're hearing from people like, don't worry about it, as long as you just rehire everybody, you're good to go. 1106 D5. It's really not going to be the case, and it really won't be that easy. And the one thing to know is that you still have to spend the money. Period. The only thing that 1106 D5 addresses is the amount that has already been deemed forgiven. ERC. So if you didn't get PPP, you want to jump on the Employee Retention Credit Form 7200. Right now, I don't know when Congress is actually going to put together this PPP Part 2. I know that they're coming under fire, that it went to high dollars, or big companies, and high dollars went to them. So I think in the next round, if you go to my YouTube channel, if you haven't seen it already, then if you will go and tweet to kind of back up this sentiment, you'll see that I have a YouTube video on let's tweet this. And I've got a YouTube video if you want to share it with your congressperson or your senator. That's just a quick, simple message, and I think what we want to say overall, and then we will jump into questions on the emails. I think overall that what we want a common voice and theme to be is we want this next round of funding, if not all of it, a very specific amount that would go to the amount of small business, maybe a specific amount to the sole proprietor, a specific amount to the self-employed, and then overall, I think to the smaller bank. I hear that there are a number of lawsuits that are popping up already because if people had put in their application on the 3rd, how is it that they didn't get funded when other people at that bank, other businesses at that bank got funded, right? So we know of a couple of people here that are in that predicament. So let's see, Corin Wall, another 60 billion to be determined. So I don't know if Robert's on, maybe he'll be able to watch later, but Robert of Philadelphia Salons, which is actually down in Florida, his daughter, and it's probably okay to say her name, don't you think? Yeah. Alexi. So I read this note. We got delivered to the house, this beautiful black box. Did we post a picture of it yet? Not yet?
No, not yet.
Anyways, beautiful black box. We knew it was from Robert because it had his beautiful logo on the side. And Amanda's opening it, and I'm trying to follow up with somebody. And she's got it all open. She's like, oh, look at this card, you know. So I was like, okay. So I go over and I look at the card, and I'm reading it, and I thought, oh, this must be from, maybe his soulmate. And as I'm reading it, get a little choked up already. It was from his daughter. It was from Robert's daughter, and it was a note of thanks with all their wonderful, beautiful products, hair products from Robert of Philadelphia Salon. So his daughter had sent something. So thank you so much, Alexi. Really, really appreciate that. Touched me. And then over the weekend, we got a big, multi-stack of boxes from Wendy, from Harry and David. So we really appreciate that so much. It just melts me. And then, last week we got, we've got I've got it up here now, Jason. So up here, we got a Megalodon. Gosh dang it, I'm from Oklahoma and we don't know how to pronounce anything. Even though I was born in California and grew up in Seattle, I'll use that as my excuse. But anyway, so Jason sent this, and Jason, you're gonna be part of the surprise that we'll be announcing with Tony. And there might be some others that are gonna maybe be a part of this on the initial aspect that I think will be neat. And we're gonna be kicking something off thanks to Tony and his idea. And he's asked me to lead it, so to speak, and be the face of it. And we're gonna be doing something neat to help businesses, not as much as PPP would have. But I will say this, if you didn't get the PPP, then you want to be immediately getting your hands around Form 7200, which is the employee retention credit. I know that we're looking at PPP money to come. So there's a small group of CPAs, Tom's one of them that we've been talking a lot about the ERC, such a great guy. Long story short, he and I both agree, might get everything ready on your 7200 and then maybe just wait a little bit, but maybe not too long. So thank you, I appreciate that. So when you're looking at the ERC in 2 seconds, hopefully you're checking out the videos on it. But what you paid, for sure you qualify for first quarter. March 13th through March 31st, you take what you paid your employees, if you're 100 and less total employees, times 50%, that's your credit, line 1, Form 7200, fax it into the IRS, boom, you should be getting a check right away. Let's see, how do I apply using 7200 form? So go to my website, jjthecpahelp.com. I've got a playlist on it, but I've got links to the forms and the instructions. I've got a video where I bring the form up and walk you all through it. So it should be great. All right, thanks for all the support. Thank you. So we have some initial questions.
Yeah, make sure that everybody's giving us a thumbs up. We would greatly appreciate that. Make sure that you are subscribed if you were not. Our first question is from Mohammed.
Mohammed.
PPP for my sole proprietor comes out to around 9,000. I might get it if new funding is approved this week. My question is, should I still apply for unemployment once it opens up in California in a couple of weeks? They will take at least 3 to 4 weeks to process it, so I would be able to use that once my PPP money runs out.
You know, on the unemployment, that's the other area. I will answer when it comes to this part. But if we have unemployment questions, I'm going to just refer you to the state in terms of, does this qualify, or can I do this, or can I that qualify? Because I will just tell you this in general, and I've got a playlist called unemployment. It's that it's this wide to be able to go and qualify for the unemployment. Even for the owners, the self-employed, the sole proprietor. But the PPP money is to represent payroll, even to you as the owner, okay? So if you're getting PPP funds, you can't go and get unemployment. However, with what Mohammed is talking about, they didn't get PPP. Okay. Absolutely go file, because you may not be able to, you want to type in the email address? You may not get the PPP, and I don't mean to be a downer there, but if you didn't get in the first round, don't assume you're getting the second round, and it'd be better, like you said, get in the system. Now, I will tell you this on the federal, if you qualify for $1, you qualify for the full 600. It's just either or, and if you've lost a stream of income, then you should qualify for it, even as the owner. And a lot of people think that they can't make any money or they can't do anything. That's really not the case. So when you go and apply for the unemployment, they're going to have a series of questions. So that's the other part I'm saying to everybody is, go apply. Like, why even ask any questions about it? Because if you don't qualify, when you go to apply for it, that'll be the result. So instead of wondering would I, could I, should I, go do it. So Mohammed, here's what you want to do. Go ahead and file. And then if the PPP money comes in, right, it's in your account, well, then you can suspend the unemployment at that point. So I think that would be probably the extent of what I would be answering is that those things are both at the federal level. PPP money is the federal unemployment's at the federal. They're meant to not be taken together, right? And the whole purpose of the Paycheck Protection is also to provide that payroll to the employees so they're not going on unemployment. I know we're coming across issues where, hey, from San Francisco, I'm going to interrupt because I'm supposed to be on WABC today in San Francisco. Is that what it's called? So maybe that's the radio then, if it's WABC. So, hey, Tim, so if you can submit the $7,200 for first quarter, okay, do it all for first quarter, and then after that, you do it each time. No, sorry, going out of order. I'm sorry. Anyways, Mohammed, get after it. Next question. My bad.
All right, our next question.
I'll sit back here and I can't see the questions.
Our next question is Blair. Well, I just don't want people thinking they got skipped today.
I know.
Thank you so much for answering my previous questions and for all the great information.
Thank you.
Is the 25% of the PPP that can be used for rent based on the total amount awarded or the amount that I end up using? Here's my PPP loan. Loan amount $40,000.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Can I use the $10,000 for my rent if my payroll over the next 8 weeks ends up being...
don't worry about that. I'm just stopping you on the details if that's okay, because we'll just get lost in them. It's basically this. Check out my videos on that, and then I do have, on jjthecpahelp.com, I've got some worksheets on that. But it's simply this. What's your max loan? So what'd you get? 25% of it max is on the rent, utilities, the interest on your business loans, okay? And then your payroll costs, I was talking to somebody earlier about this today, your payroll costs are the same payroll costs that went into figuring out your loan. So that's the gross pay to the employees, including the owners, W-2 only, does not include employer taxes, but it does include the SUTA. And then we've got the employer paid health insurance and the employer paid match for retirement. So gather up all those expenses. That's the at least 75%. But of your dollar amount, not more than 25% can go to those other expenses. And the reason that the payroll could be more than the 75% is you got to remember that calculation for the monthly was an average over 12 months. So I'll just tell you, there's going to be a number of us that there's just going to be a difference related to that from the standpoint of the average that you have now is different from the average of the last 12 months. That's why I've just been kind of preaching, for lack of a better word, just spend what you need on what you got now. And whatever you basically were doing on February 15th, that's kind of what they're expecting you to do. If you need to hire some employees, you do it. It just may not be that the PPP money ultimately will be used, so to speak, for that.
Couple of shout outs. First one is from Esther, who just came on and said, "Hi JJ and Amanda, I just received both of your books 30 minutes ago."
Thank you.
So thank you
and
so
we
much.
have sent something to you. I think it went out Friday.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. In LA.
And our second.
Thank you so much for getting the books. It means so much.
Our second shout out is from an email, and it is from Andy, and he said, "Congrats guys on hitting over 20,000 subscribers. I've been watching it grow these past 3 to 4 weeks. Great content, great job. Thanks for all your help."
Hey Valerie. Well, thank you. Is that the Andy?
Nope, a different Andy.
Well, then it's the Andy.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the shout out on that. And it took me a couple of days to decide if I was going to do it. Amanda said, "You need to do it." And I have had a few people that said, "I can't wait for this to happen to you, and I hope that it does." And I talked to a couple other people about it. But starting last Friday, YouTube has said, "Hey, you're monetized." And so I am monetized. Hopefully y'all don't mind that you might have to watch 3 seconds to get to my video, but Amanda reassured me by saying, there's people love the information you're providing them, and it's helping them. It's it's information that they might have to get from another advisor and have to pay for that.
Exactly.
And so if they have to, sit through 5 seconds, and then if something pops up in the middle.
That's right. And plus this is a man who's been working, 18, 20-hour days to get information out to you guys and going on 3 or 4 hours of sleep 7 days a week, unless I force him to go sit down with me, and then he lasts like 30 minutes on the couch and then he's out. So this is just a way that he can get compensated a little bit for all the hard work that he's doing for free. So
well, I'm blushing if you can't tell, and thank you so much for that. Monica Lamb, hi. And the reason is I didn't set out to do any of this. It's just been, so win-win. Thank you so much, Peter. I really just set out to, thank you so much, Gene. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I was just putting videos out to help my clients, and then I had bankers. I was talking with Tony and Julio, the CPA, is what they call him down in Florida, in the Miami area. But long story short, I was just putting together videos and worksheets for my clients, and then banks here locally, because I guess I was just ahead of it. I wasn't waiting for anything to come out. I was just reading the law. And I was doing all these, numbers and worksheets and sending them to my clients. I was sending them an email, and I was like, "Go here and do this and do that." And talking to clients all day and then doing stuff all night. And then the bankers, "Hey, can I have some of that?" And I was like, "All right, well, I'll build this website instead, so that no one thinks I'm doing this to try and bring on clients or anything like that." Thank you so much, Kylie. But anyways, and then more people started needing it. And then Josh Jelinski had me on his radio station. He's had me now on his radio show 4 times. And then I got a few other interviews in Fox News, and it's been neat. All the Cheddar, I'm going to be on Cheddar next week, going to be doing an interview here at 5:30. So it's been great. So I really appreciate all the support so much. It means very much. Thank you, Todd. I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, our next one is from Gosman.
Thank you, Woke.
Been watching the videos. Thanks a lot again for all your help. Already subscribed. Amazing guidance in this rough time. I got a little help from the EIDL, and I had multiple apps in for the EIN. Do you know if reapplying is necessary if there is more funds available, or will they just go with the existing apps?
So right now, there have been a few people that are getting that EIDL. So they did announce the same time that they announced that there's no more PPP money, which I believe was on Wednesday of last week, the EIDL at the same time. So literally, I'm up and it's like 3 a.m. and thank you, Kim. I love that. I love it. I'm putting together an email to go to my client, and I'm going to the EIDL, I'm going to SBA.gov. I'm putting it together to say, okay, go here. You're going to need this information. And I didn't want to send it to them because I know this client well enough that they were going to get a ding on their phone. And I don't know, it was around 4:30 a.m. I go back to the website because I was like, oh, I need to probably give them a link to this one. And then it said, boom. All right, Monica, I love it. It said, boom, funds have lapsed. All to say this, that I don't see that EIDL or the small business website's going to get any more funding out of this next round. I think the SBA tried to do their best to ration it out. They got some criticism for it at the beginning of doing that, where it just started to be based on the number of employees that you had. So I'm sure that was a tough decision for them. And then on the PPP, I think you're on the same page. It's, run out. And I've not had anybody since it ran out telling me that, thank you, Mark, that they got that confirmation and then they finally got word that it was approved. All I've heard is since the money's run out, people I know that have said, hey, thank you, Guns N' Roses. I had an SBA number, which I thought it meant I was good to go, and then didn't get the funding. I was talking to somebody, on Sunday, just, online. But, hey, what up, Tax Slayer? 200,000. And then there was someone else that was on last week, and they were planning on paying payroll and didn't get the PPP. And so anyways, there's lawsuits that are, my understanding, being brought up now because there wasn't a true first come, first serve. So.
All right, our next question is from Dewey.
Thank you, Andrea.
As a new in 2019 business, I was not able to use Schedule C due to first year losses almost a new business would incur towards startup costs. However, we are a seasonal business, frozen ice cream yogurt shop, and depend heavily on summer where sales can triple or quadruple. Though sales were negative when I bought last year, sales definitely became promising and profitable this year in January and February, but immediately after shutdown, our sales dropped 85 to 90%. But I did not close my door, and I continue to work 90 to 110 hours a week in my shop.
Wow.
Now, even with the PPP and working my butt off 14 hours a day, I will still have nothing left to live off of at the end of the day, since PPP money cannot be applied towards me as a single member without a profit on my Schedule C. Am I able to apply for any other programs while my business is open and using PPP for employees? I don't know if you have any suggestions for me on other programs that I may qualify. Thanks a bunch for all you do for small businesses.
Yeah, thank you for that. Boy, that's a tough spot. That is a tough spot where this is somebody that, because the business was a loss, and for a single member LLC, the portion that would be allocable to them, because they're not pulling a wage, would be based on the net. There was no net, so they don't have anything for themselves. And while business owners are relieved to be able to get dollars to then make their payroll, then you are in a set of circumstances where, just like she said, the payroll is going to be met, the loan interest is going to be paid for, the rent and the utilities, so that helps. Nothing is for the cost of goods sold. And so hopefully, though, then the offset of some of those costs will help maybe more of the sales that are coming in go to your bottom line, but I understand if the sales are down 80%, if there's nothing coming in, or 20% of what used to come in is coming in, then if you're in a set of circumstances that has led to that, the only thing really out there is the Sba Express Loan. It's $25,000, no signature, no guarantee, no collateral, goes very quickly. You do apply for it though. It does have to go through some underwriting. It does seem to be somewhat contingent on your credit, but it does seem though, if you already have a banking relationship with an SBA lender, that really should loosen it up. However, you know, from the standpoint of the difference from that to the others, you're in a set of circumstances where you would have to pay it back. So it's hard to know if that would be what you'd want to do or not. So yeah, I mean, tough spot. Glad that you're open. That's really the only other thing that I can tell you that's available right now. And then I'm hoping with the other round of PPP, it'll be directed towards a small business owner. I don't know that there'll be something that would be any different. But then, you know, if you got the PPP funds, remember that well, you know what? I was just trying to think in my head. You should be able to qualify for unemployment actually, because you're not getting anything. And even though you're open, unemployment's not that you're completely shut down. It's a different threshold. So depending on where you're at is where I think you would want to look. So, you know, go apply for the unemployment, see what happens there. And because the PPP is covering your employees and not you, that's why I think you'd be able to qualify. But again, that's up to your state. And then just as a quick note, anything that's for an S Corp is the same as a C Corp. There's not any difference between an S and a C as it relates to anything related to forgiveness or PPP money or how it's used or employees or wages. There's no difference. So C is the same as S. Anything that says S, apply it to C.
All right, our next question is from Felix. Is it too late to file for S Corp, and how long does it take to hear back from the IRS? I have a multi-partner LLC and would like to file my 19 taxes under an S Corp.
Well, it's going to depend on who your CPA, EA, tax advisor is. But what it comes down to is the short answer is yes, because you have until the filing of your return with 2019 to elect the S status. Now, you have to file it under, there's three different revenue rulings to determine which one applies in terms of you have to file your Form 2553, which is your S election, but then you have to file, in essence, hey, sorry that we're filing this late, here's why, with your Form 2553. And then depending on your circumstances and your setup, depends on the revenue ruling. But it's been around so long that, you know, tax professionals, EAs, and CPAs that are dealing with this, then they should be aware of it. If not, then I guess need to get with somebody that would know how to do that, because it'd make a huge difference for you. And then when you're filing the 2553, you would put effective date 1/1/19. You backdate nothing, right? Because on 2553, I'll date it the date you're signing it, but all the owners have to sign off on it. The officer or the managing member has to sign off on it. And then same thing when you're filling out the election, you're saying, hey, here it is. And all it comes down to is we have decided we want to be an S Corp effective 1/1/19. If it's too late to do it for whatever reason with your advisors, then you can do it effective 1/1/20. I would just do it now then. Just get it over with, because the technical rule, if you were doing it perfectly, you'd file it within 75 days of the date you want to be an S Corp. But obviously you're way past that, and you're even past it for 2020. We didn't get an extension of anything with a March 15th deadline. So get with your advisors and get it taken care of. And if not 1/1/19, do it 1/1/20. So thanks, Felix, and hope all else is well. Thank you for the question. That's a great one.
Our next one is from Bernita and Steven with Backyard Barbecue.
All right.
And you guys should have got your care package by today or tomorrow, so let us know. And they wanted to ask your advice on what we should do now that things have changed. Should we continue the process for the PPP? We have 7 employees all on standby. We would only be able to bring back 2 with what little we are making. That is if they will swing how they are collecting unemployment. ERC, I filled it out, but I don't know if I should send it in. Would that affect Stephen and I possibly qualifying for unemployment ourselves? We both have to contribute to work in hopes to save our business going under, but don't know how that works yet.
Yeah. Did it sound like they have gotten PPP money?
It says, should we continue the process for the PPP?
When was that dated?
Yes, she
Okay.
sent this today at 1:01
Okay.
p.m.
Well, Bernice, right? Vernita, sorry.
And Stephen.
And Stephen. Well, hey, I'm sorry for the circumstances that you're in. Just to clarify on the PPP, if you have an application in and you haven't heard a denial, and not a denial, if you hadn't heard from your bank that they've run out of money, follow up with them. Continuing the process of the PPP. Hey, Tina, how are you? Long story short, if you don't have an application in, you won't get PPP. If you haven't heard from the bank, go and ask them, because most people by now have heard, hey, here's the money, here's how you get it, or sorry, we ran out. So you need to get your hands around that. If you didn't get the PPP money, then you want to do the Employee Retention Credit ASAP, Form 7200, as you alluded to. And just to be sure, you're taking what you paid in salaries, including whatever you paid yourselves from March 13th through March 31st, whatever you paid in salaries times 50%. You put that on line 1, fill out the rest of the info, fax it into the IRS, and get those dollars. Because of the circumstances that you're indicating to me, if you think you might get PPP2, I wouldn't wait more than 3 days. Get those numbers and get the 7,200 ready to go, because if we don't have something solid on PPP in the next 2 or 3 days, which no one's even in session, I don't know how we would, then get that money in, or get that Form 7,200 in to get the money. The ERC and the unemployment, 2 separate things. It won't affect it. And the reason for that is that the Employee Retention Credit is based on, for your first round, on March, okay? It's what you did pay, where unemployment is, I'm losing money now going forward. So go ahead and get that Employee Retention Credit. And then if you're still under government mandate under COVID-19, and your business is partially closed or fully closed related to that, that Employee Retention Credit you're going to continue to get as long as you're paying payroll. You're paying payroll, okay? Not money from PPP, which it doesn't sound like you have. So if you all are still paying payroll, you're going to continue to get that ERC. Doesn't matter about gross being down. That's just another provision. And then getting unemployment, you have to remember when you own a business, you have 3 roles, okay? You have 3 roles when you own a business. One role is I'm actually working in it, you know? I'm actually doing the work. The other role is you're an investor. You know, I put money in it, I oversee, I'm signing off on loans, I'm an investor, okay? And the third role is you're an officer, you're a decision maker, you're, for lack of a better word, you're the management, right? So there are 3 roles here. So you can still have the role of an investor and the role of a, management, running the company, in the sense of we're not open, but we still have to decide what we're doing on this, still got to coordinate with employees, still have to coordinate with vendors, still have to coordinate with customers. And so if you're not working, okay, as in the actual work, then you would qualify for the federal unemployment. And then even if you're not completely out, if you have a tremendous amount of your revenue that's gone away, and so you're not paying yourself really anything, you're going to qualify. But I would just have to tell you this, you're going to have to go to your state And in my opinion, you need to just do it sooner rather than later. And I mean, I'm just telling you to wait around for a few days just from the standpoint of being safe. But you guys need to make a decision if it would make sense. Do we wait around for PP funding that might be here in 3 weeks, maybe 4? Or do we go ahead and put in the employee retention credit? And then know this, if you put in for the employee retention credit and you get PPP funds later under current law, under April 20th, you may have to give back that credit, but who cares because you got money now. Okay, it may affect the amount that you qualify for. It may affect the amount that gets forgiven. It may be that by the end of July, you have to give that back if you get PPP money, right? So, right, bird in hand, okay? That whole analogy there, you know, got 2 in the bush, 1 in the hand, something like that. How does that work? You're just getting me a thumbs up. Point is, bird in hand's worth more than 2 in the bush. That's what it is.
There it is.
So your bird in hand is your ERC. All right. Hey, so good luck to you all. Thank you for the question. And then we emailed to let them know.
Yep. All right. Next one is from Delina. So far, I have not received any EIDL yet, and still no chance for PPP. I already faxed ERC for first quarter and have just applied for PUA, unemployment benefit, today.
Good.
Will I be eligible for PPP loan if second round gets approved, as I will stop receiving unemployment benefits the day the loan gets approved?
You know, I don't feel comfortable speculating on PPP2 because I don't know if there is going to be PP2. I don't know if it's going to be different parameters, different, you know, qualifications. So I would just say this, you're making decisions based on what you know now, which is perfect. The thing to note that if they come out with something different, they will take into account for the most part, because it's been pretty fair in some ways, other than that money ran out. They'll take into account that someone already did this and someone already did this. And so if that happened, I would be shocked if it was like, well, if you already did that, you totally can't do PPP. I think it would be just like the people that got EIDL and then got PPP. It affected the loan forgiveness. So that'd be my guess. But all I can tell you is this. I have no idea how it'll affect PPP2. But I don't know that you worry about that right now. What you need to worry about is right now. Where can I get dollars in? What do I qualify for now? You didn't get PPP1. You didn't get EIDL. So take advantage of what is there now, because that's what it's for. And that ERC, good job on that. And then just remember, the ERC continues, right, after first quarter. And someone had asked earlier too, but you can file it as often as you are doing payroll. And you can go, well, I know that this week I paid all these people, okay? Boom, I'm gonna put in that $7,200. I don't even have to wait for the end of the payroll period. My suggestion though is that just have one $7,200 in process at a time. That's just a practical after 27 years of experience. One $7,200 at a time. So put in for first quarter, get your check, then put in for whatever period of time you've needed, you qualify for it for April, and then you'll go. So, all right, well, good luck to you on all that, and sorry for the circumstances.
And just a reminder in housekeeping, we have 359 people watching.
Oh, wow.
Only 81 thumbs up. So if you guys could please give the thumbs up, we would greatly appreciate that. That's just one way that you can give back to JJ the CPA for everything that he's doing. Also, please subscribe. Our next question is
please subscribe. I really would appreciate that. I'm just going to interrupt by saying, you know, I am just assuming that if you're throwing a question down, if you're emailing me a question, that you have subscribed. To be honest with you, I kind of would have my feelings hurt. I'm being dead serious. If you sent me a question and hadn't subscribed in advance, and even if I can't get to your question, I've put out a lot of videos. And don't get me wrong, I'm not doing it. I just feel like the videos are out there for free. There you go. You don't, no expectation. But I really am kind of hoping that you would have been a subscriber if you're asking a question. And if you're not getting questions answered, you know, typically we have Kenda and Tina and Julio and sometimes Mark
Yeah.
Every once in a while, Clay. Not every once in a while, Clay.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if Allegra, Diana. I don't
Diana's
know.
not on.
She's
I
not on
haven't
today.
seen her.
Well,
She
she's
wasn't
probably
on
got clients.
Friday either. So.
She's probably got clients that now need ERC money. Anyways, that's just a long way of saying it'd be nice if you subscribed. So thank you.
All right, our next question's from Brian. Do you have to return the excess PPP to the bank after taking the 8 weeks owner compensation replacement? No other employee or rent utilities? If yes, when do I have to send it back? Also, when can I move my owner compensation replacement from my business account to my personal account?
Yeah, so you're going to want to check with the bank on that, but I will tell you just from the federal level, right, in terms of the rules, and again, I'll just say it again, you need to check with your bank because they're the ones that will make sure that everything's the way that it's supposed to be for their interpretations. But I'll say it, 3 answers to that. One, you have 2 years to pay it back. You can pay it back immediately, or you have 2 years to pay it out. It's a 1% loan over 2 years. And then as it relates to, did they say they were a single member LLC? Mm-hmm. So a single member LLC technically could be a C Corp. It could be an S Corp, okay? A single member LLC, I think the way you're referencing it though is Schedule C. So go to my website, jjthecpahelp.com, go to my playlist that's called PPP Self-Employed. On my website, I have a calculation of how you determine how much of that is going to be automatically forgivable, but I want you to double check with your bank. But you take line 31 divided by 52 times 8, and that's just yours. That's just yours. Now, if it's up at the business level, so if you're a single member LLC and you're an S Corp or you're a C Corp, that does not apply to you. You would need to follow the 75% and the 25% if you are the only W-2 employee. So that's why I just want you to double check with your bank so that you are doing everything accordingly so that you don't sit in front of them. Because remember, 100% of us are going to talk with the bank at the end and provide them documentation. They're going to see the bank statements and what happened. So double check that with your bank to make sure that they didn't have some different interpretation. But thank you, thank you for that.
All right, our next question's from Stephanie. Thank you, JJ, for all your help to everyone. My question is this. I applied on 410 and got approved at my community bank. I have loan application number, fund number from SBA as of 410. He sent me screenshots. Bank says that he knows it's day 10, but they are taking a day or 2 longer and my funds aren't in jeopardy. I can't get my 2019 done accurately this fast, but will shove them something if I have to, as your video advised. My CPA said he would cobble something together if emergency. Here are my questions. I thought they had to have the promissory note to you by the 10th day. I was funded on 410 before the guidance came out, so I was approved with my 1099 and my driver's license and nothing else. Now I see all the new guidance as of 415. Can the bank let me go through because it was before the government issued specifics? Can I be grandfathered in? I'm afraid to say anything to them. I mean, they are the bank.
Yeah, so on that, definitely understand the circumstances. You know, if the bank has said that your funds aren't in jeopardy, they're taking a couple extra days, you know, they may have indicated, hey, it's the 10th, but, you know, there might be a day or 2 from when the SBA, you know, like put their stamp of approval on it, so to speak. It is 10 days, but the reason the SBA came out, I want to say it was on the 6th or the 8th, and clarified that although the law states that your 80 days starts on origination, okay, which some could interpret it as, boom, SBA approved it, that could be an origination date. The SBA indicated it's when the funding is dispersed. It's when you receive it. So the good news on that is that your 80 days won't start ringing until then. The second is, I get it. You don't want to really ask the bank, and I wouldn't, in the sense, I think it's okay to check on the status, okay? But there's no reason for you to go to the bank and say, hey, do you need this or do you need that, or I got this ready, or my CPA will, I love that word, cobble something together, which is that's a great CPA doing that. Just wait and see what they request, and then just sit tight. I wouldn't try and bring up to them that it's been 10 days like today, but if you hit Wednesday and it's the 22nd and 23rd, it's like, hey guys, I did think it was 10 days. I do need the money. Like, what's up? So yeah, you're in that, walking on eggshells just a little bit, but there's no reason to go to a bank, in my opinion, for any purpose and say, are you sure you don't need this? And would you like to have this? JJ CPA live from New Hampshire. So anyways, good luck to you on that. I hope you get the funding. I bet you will. If the bank said that that your funds are secured, that's different language than saying, it's been submitted. And typically by now, I would think you would have learned that you didn't have it. So just sit tight. I know it's kind of, oh my gosh, I need to know, but just sit tight.
All right, our next one is from Tony, but I'm gonna let JJ read this one because it has some personal numbers in it. Thank you guys for bumping all of the thumbs up. We really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
359 of you guys. You're so awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I thought when we hit this week, I was like, if we got 100 people on, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to love it. And we've always had just a ton of people, and I really appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully we're bringing some value here.
I just love that we get to see so many familiar names, and we just truly feel like you guys are our friends. Like we're just hanging out and talking with our friends. Absolutely.
And thanks for spreading the word. Okay, adjusting compensation to 100. Would I adjust it weekly off of that? Let's see, Tom Gross. Did I report? Would adjust compensation based on. Okay, so on this, Tony. On this, you don't have to adjust what you're paying yourself. The 100 cap is based on the gross, okay? And if we're talking about wages here, which I'm assuming that you are, the health insurance and the retirement match is in addition to that. So this would be 100K straight up W-2. And you can pay yourself more. If your salary is 125, you can keep paying yourself 125. It's just that the PPP money will only cover the equivalent of 100 grand annualized into 8 weeks, or annualized into the 2 months. And so if you had, if your bank was keeping the money in a separate account, and let's just say for grins, that whatever your salary is, it's 10% above that 100 mark annualized, meaning your annual salary is 110K. Then when you're pulling money out to cover the gross payroll, you'd only pull out 90% of what it is that you technically need if you had a separate account. And then at the end of the forgiveness period, whatever you did pay, 100 will just count. So hopefully that answers your question. But it is based on the gross, not the net, and it's not inclusive of the health insurance and employer match. That's just pure 100. And then as it relates to if you have a Schedule C and it's at 100 or more, then it's just simply Schedule C line 31 divided by 52 times 8. You're done, period. So thank you for the question, and I'm glad that you got the money.
All right, our next one is from John. Do you have any idea how we'll be calculating FTEs for a part-time workforce? Will it mirror ACA or 401k rules or other?
They do allude to that in the CARES Act. And I believe that the SBA will come out with some clarifications. I don't recall, let's see, Tina, if you're on, or Kenda, Julio, I don't recall there being an SBA definition of FTE separate from what's in the in the law. But what I would tell you this, I don't think they're going to reinvent how FTEs are determined. And based on kind of the most recent, you know, the ACA might be the way to go if ACA doesn't really apply, the 401k, but I think those mirror each other. And in its simplest form, for those that are maybe listening in and you're not familiar with ACA or 401k, or you've never messed with it before, I do think it's, you know, I have 2 employees, they each work 20 hours a week. That's an equivalent of 1 full-time employee. But check with your bank, really, since we don't have a full guidance, check with them, because you would want to know that now, because you're having to pull together all the dates. So go to my website, everybody, jjthecpahelp.com. I've got a list in the forgiveness page that I added, and all I'm simply listing is straight out of the law. Here's the dates that you're going to need payroll information and head count and this FTE of where that comes into play. But look in 1106, in the section 1106. If you go to my website, jjthecpahelp.com, on the forgiveness page, you'll see a little kind of cartoon character of me that matches my book, JJ the CPA here. It's that right there. You click on it. It actually has the law per the government on it. And it actually, as you scroll down, not even very far, you'll see 1106. Click on it, pops you right down to 1106, and review that section, and then check with your bank. So thank you for that, and good luck to you.
That is all of our questions. We did get a couple of emails, but they're really personal and kind of emotional, so I'm going to let him read those offline so he can reply to them. And then we had a couple that was about forgiveness, and you said you didn't want to discuss that at this time. So we have finished up the emails.
Yeah, so there's a quick, let's see, couple of them. So Clay shared with us that the Washington Post is the one that has the story talking about the backlash after big businesses receive millions in small business money. Do you want to scroll to see what questions we have? Oh, got a delivery. We did have a question here about they got some banking documents, and when it was talking about the payroll, it did not include the health insurance up there. But to be clear, Section 1102 in the CARES Act defines payroll cost, and when it defines the payroll cost, it indicates that, you know, it includes the payroll as well as the employer portion of health insurance, the employer portion of the match, as well as state unemployment tax. So you add all that together, and then that's going to put you in a position where when you're then doing the loan forgiveness down in 1106, it says the payroll cost, which is the 75% amount that needs to be at least spent on the loans, that is then inclusive of that. So we talked about it earlier, but you definitely want to include that because it does make a difference. The one aspect that you want to take a look at, the other aspect that you want to look at is when you get with your bank and they're giving you the worksheet, if it doesn't list what the documents are that are needed, then you want to say, well, what documents do you also need? I mean, the spreadsheet's, you know, great and all, but you don't want to get to the end and then be in a certain set of circumstances where you don't have the documentation that they are seeking. Also, we had a number of questions over the weekend. So I've got a couple that are kind of related to the loan forgiveness, but I'm not going to answer the actual amount that they're indicating would it qualify or not. But it's this: is it wrong to pay my employees a raise if I have PPP money? So this is my take on raises. You know, if it's raise time, if there's hazard pay, if you have an employee working overtime, you have an employee working the job of 2 people, even though they're still making the same amount, and you're rewarding that employee the same that you would always have rewarded an employee, or the same that you would always provide raises in, you know, April or May. You know, anything that I've ever said, you know, it's if you're carrying on the normal course of business, okay, that's all that's really required here is, and that's been my theme from the beginning, is spend it on what you need. Now, there's a fine line, right? But if you are in a set of circumstances where you're like, well, do I need to give a raise to get full forgiveness? and now you're trying to manipulate the numbers, juggle them, right? I just don't think that's the spirit. I don't think that's what the law is allowing. I do think with what I call the crazy calculation, I have a video and it says, you know, boogeyman. I don't really know how you maneuver through all of it and then just go, oh, I got it all magically forgiven. And the goal isn't necessarily forgiveness here. I think that maybe just it was the wrong terminology. So when this person's saying, you know, is it wrong to give a raise? Of course, I don't know what's right or wrong for each individual. I just think if you're giving a raise to manipulate the numbers and then you're not going to stick to that raise, or the raise is not deserved, or the raise is only because of that, then I just think you have, I think you have an issue on that. All right.
We're gonna do a couple of shout outs from some mail that we just got, because we want to make sure that we are shouting out everybody who sends something to JJ. And this is the sweetest thing. This is from Keith, who is a CPA. 36 years of practice with his CPA, and he sent you a gift card
from Saltgrass. Wow.
And I love it that
Thank you so much.
His letter is directed to me because he knows that JJ is too busy working on his next video or his Sba loan research. And a shout out to his daughter, who is 35 years old and special needs, and her name is Jennifer, but he calls her JJ.
Aww.
So he's adding another famous JJ to the list.
Aww, I love it. I love
it. Wonderful
this.
letter from Keith.
Aww, well, I really appreciate that. Keith from Dallas. Wow, that I'm honored. You
36 years.
63. You know, if I'm palatable to the more experienced CPAs out there, I really take extra honor in that because I do try really hard to make my grandfather proud. He's no longer with us, you know, my grandfather to me, now he's a lot older than Keith here, but my grandfather for me, you know, I opened my practice when I was 25. He was my hero, so I've always wanted to live up to what I felt he did for his clients and how he ran his practice. And so, you know, when we're traveling around, you know, from Seattle to Indiana to New York, and when I have CPAs that are, you know, more experienced than me, and you know, they appreciate what I'm putting together, it means a lot. And then any CPA and any EA and any tax professional, it means a lot. And then for anybody, honestly, I'm not trying to point it out. It just, it makes me feel good that it's been worthy. It's been worthy.
Yep, and also he put in his letter, he's not a social media guy, but he still subscribed to the channel, so.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Speaking of CPAs, another note from another CPA.
Oh,
this
wow.
is Paul Carlson, CPA from lawfirmvelocity.com, and he sent a handwritten, and so handwritten notes mean a lot to JJ because he sends handwritten notes to everybody.
Wow. Well, thank you, Paul. It means a lot. I really appreciate it. And, you know, in the era of handwritten notes, not really just being normal. I mean, like, where do you get a handwritten note? No one just has them laying around anymore. And that was one thing that I read in a book when I was in college, because I knew I wanted to have my own CPA practice when I was in college, to model after my grandfather's, even though I didn't grow up around him. And in one of the books, and it was what they don't teach you at Harvard Business School, but it talked about the value even back then of handwritten notes. And when I've had people in the past say, you know, what's a key to the success and how you brought in clients? Like, what would be kind of the two things of marketing or advertising? And it's handwritten notes, you know, of just appreciation, and then buying people lunch. You know, I don't think I've ever, I mean, now people will buy me lunch, but I've never done a Dutch, you know what it's called? We'll go Dutch. I've never done a Dutch treat lunch ever. And anyway, so that would be the 2 keys. So thank you for
Yes.
that. I really appreciate the office had stopped by and brought some of the things, and that was included in that. So thank you very much.
Yep, and I guess we'll do about 5 more minutes of this, and then we're gonna have to wrap up to get ready for the radio interview. I did put the link inside of the chat because it is streamable, if you guys would like to listen to it.
Okay.
So it is in there. Russell Jenkins says, hey JJ, big fan, got your book on the way.
Thank you.
Quick question, do you have a post on journalizing the PPP
Oh.
loan for clients?
Yep. So I talked about it earlier. So if you're able to go back, maybe it was 30 minutes ago. So maybe at the 4:30 mark. But I will be doing a video on that. So I appreciate you asking. But just real quick, I'm setting up a liability account. So when the deposit comes in, setting up as a liability for clients that aren't really paying attention to their financials, which sounds funny, but like the sole proprietor that's like whatever, and they're their books, right? So whatever. As the expenses are being paid, I will just book them to the liability. For clients that really are wanting to track, payroll from year to year and budgeting and things to that effect, I'm just gonna track it. I'm gonna still set it up as a liability. And then at year end, I'm just gonna make a journal entry for the forgiveness amount over to, in essence, other expenses. It'll be a negative other expense. That way it sticks out, I think, to the banks and third parties that it's not income. And then on the tax return, I'm gonna do it as a negative in the other deductions, similar to what we would have to do for those that have an R&D credit, where we have to take the credit as a negative in expense.
Willie D, is fleet fuel covered cost under gas for business vehicle clause?
So if you're self-employed, okay, here's what I want you to do is go to my website. I get no benefit of you going to my website in the sense of you're not entering in an email. There's no tricks there. But go to my website, go to the forgiveness page, and that learning. Do you see that question? I want to answer that one. Okay. I want you to more specifically ask your bank about it, number one. Number two, on the forgiveness page is an SBA. Down at the bottom, it says SBA 414. Open that up. SBA's done a great job of on their guidelines and their FAQs of just being in plain language. So I would review that, but then I also have a list that came from the SBA guidelines. And yeah, believe it or not, isn't that weird that for self-employed, like Schedule C, gas for the vehicle you're using for business, it doesn't even say for a corporate-owned business vehicle, which isn't always the case, but gas that you use is going to count. So for our truckers out there that have asked, that will count towards the forgiveness. I don't know how they call it a utility, but they did. They're calling it a utility. So SBA and then your bank, and just so you know, if you come across something and the bank doesn't seem to be consistent, that's why I'm directing you to the SBA guidelines, because your bank's not going to care about a memo I put together. What they care about is the SBA guidelines.
Learning Garden, do you think setting up a class, do you think setting up a class, the PPP expenses, is an efficient way to track using QuickBooks?
I love that idea. I'm going to put it on my notes because I had talked to one client, and they're fairly sophisticated, and they already keep a class system. And I said, well, why don't you just set one up for, PPP? And that way, when you're coding your expense, then you have your PPP lined up, and that way you can just pull, right? You would know, right? You can do a P&L, do it by class, double click on the total expense. Here's all of them. Loving that idea, like big time, in terms of even if you don't keep a class system. So I appreciate that. Yes, I'm loving it.
Tammy R, do you have anything on your site regarding a C Corporation electrician with just myself? Although my wife is a secretary, but doesn't get paid with a separate check.
Yeah, so anything related to the C is going to be the same as the S. There's really, with PPP, there's no difference, there's no distinction. And really, even with a partnership, when you're just looking at how the wages are taken care of, and by golly, not even a difference with the sole proprietor, meaning wages are wages regardless of the type of entity. And I know that in the difference with a C Corp, you know, you have dividends or wages. So dividends don't count for anything. 1099s don't count for anything, even to yourself. And so I think Tony from California, I think it's Tony.
Yeah, it's Tony.
That's Tony?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, Tony, why are you asking me again?
No.
Not Tony from Florida. But anyways, if there's no wages, then you have an issue. So you probably need to circle back to the bank though, okay? Because if you got a PPP, that should have already been resolved on the front side in terms of how you arrived at your payroll costs. So let me bring it all the way back. With your bank, whatever you used that qualified for payroll, because that was the only thing that qualified, that's now what counts in terms of the loan forgiveness. That's what's going to count. Now, someone asked earlier, dang it, and I didn't answer it at the time. I hope they're still on. It was on an email. But who was it that asked the question of, will I be grandfathered in? Will you do a word search on grandfather? Because it was from an email. I don't know for sure on this grandfather question, so let me get back to it if you weren't on earlier. Someone had indicated that with a driver's license and a 1099, bada boom, bada bing. Stephanie. Okay, so I don't know if Stephanie's on. Will you email her again and say that at
I'm looking for
75 minutes I continued my answer? You want to definitely check with the bank, but all I'll point out is that on the 14th, the SBA said effective immediately, and my interpretation was that moment forward, okay? And so if somebody put in for an application and was able to just include their gross 1099s, I don't know, it kind of doesn't seem fair, but at the same time, that bank submitted it to the SBA took it, it was funded on that. Everybody at the time believed that that's how it was supposed to be done. I do think that's one way. I don't want to make anybody feel bad that if they got the funding based on the 1099 gross. That is, I kind of contributed a little bit to money going quicker, is the SBA did not clarify until the 14th. Now, I was saying all along, I think with also other CPAs and some EAs, that it was line 31. It was line 31. The only way it could be gross 1099 is if you didn't file a Schedule C, but there was nowhere to specifically find that, right? So you better just check with the bank right away about that grandfather provision. But at the end of the day, just remember this, whatever's not forgiven, and again, that seems like such a strong word. I think it's almost set up everybody to be like, I got to get it forgiven because I've done something wrong. Because when do you seek forgiveness? You did something wrong. Point is check with the bank. Whatever you don't use or whatever's not forgiven, you pay back. You have 2 years to pay it back. I don't see how you've done anything incorrect if you put that info in, because at that time, people were interpreting that 1099's got you, which I agree with, but not if you took expenses on Schedule C. So now we've got more guidance. If they do PPP2, I think we'll be able to know better there. So.
All right, our very last question.
And then, so we're streaming live.
And it's in the comments.
In about, what, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm going on a radio program. Yes, last question.
Right, last question's from Stanley.
Stanley.
Just got approved for an SBA loan through the 7B program. Bless you. Can we still apply for the PPP program and state unemployment? I am the owner as an S Corp.
Well, the PPP is gone. And if you got an SBA, Express Loan, or you got an SBA loan, a loan is not income. And, so you can get a loan and then do anything else that you're able to do. The loan wouldn't preclude you. Now, when you're talking specific to that, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and ask, what you want to know is just the true answer from the entity or the bank that gave you those funds. And the reason for that is that you don't want to be in jeopardy, because SBA guidelines have specific guidelines on how things are supposed to move, forward. So I'm just telling you, in normal circumstances, you get a loan. Well, it's a loan to buy assets. It's a loan for overhead. That in itself wouldn't preclude you from getting unemployment. And the reason why is that you have to pay the loan back. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not an expert in SBA loans in the sense of your bank is, right? Your lending officer. And so you just want to absolutely get a hold of the bank and just say, hey, I got these funds, but I'm not able to pay myself. I don't have enough money. I got to pay this money back, right? Yes. So I just want to double check that I'm able to go on unemployment. So I'd rather you just check. So, well, hey, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We'll go live tomorrow. I don't have anything after. Yeah, I don't have anything tomorrow. So we're going to go live at 4 Central Standard Time. So let people know. Hopefully you're getting value out of this. Thank you for those that tuned in. Gene and Fred and Backyard Barbecue and Jason, Meg Waters, Deepwater Megs. And I don't know if Kenda, and I've got to talk with Julio today. Gene, thank you so much. And Greg.
Deep Patel.
Let's see, Deep Patel. And gosh, who am I missing? It's Backyard Barbecue, and then there's another barbecue. Coach's Pit Barbecue. First one on. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the compliment and the support. Appreciate everybody being on. So go to the link. The link should still be up even though we stopped going live, right?
Yep,
People can go
to
the comments. Let's see. Nancy H. Did you get a new logo? Let's see. Yes. And thank you for the picture and the plug. Really appreciate all that. And we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks, Fred. I appreciate you. And Nancy H. Okay, all right. Well, cool. I love it. I love it. I can't quite see it, but I think I see what it is. All right, y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. And then who says it? I'll see you on the radio. There's someone that says that. I think the Sunday morning person says that. So.
Bye, guys.
Oh, got the Kindle version. Thank you so much, Kelly. I really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, on the SEP question arc, email it. jj@jjthecpahelp.com, and we'll answer it tomorrow. Thank you so much.